Today is the 25th day of July 2020 in Dundas Town, Abaco in the Bahamas, where Kai Mills resides. And now I am in fear for my life because with the government of the Bahamas and Dr. Livingston Marshall has caused to happen in Abaco. We're so proud of saying to everybody, we are safe in Abaco. We have no COVID-19. But because of the underhand dealing of Bakers Bay and one Dr. Livingston Marshall that Michael Melman need to get rid of right away. Nobody, I'm saying nobody in Abaco or had dealings with Dr. Marshall in Bakers Bay has no respect for this brother. Dr. Marshall left the Prime Minister's office to be what? The money. It's all about the money. You imagine having a key position in a new government next to the Prime Minister and you left his office for Bakers Bay? Since that, it has been all negative. We know that Judas sold Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. The question is, did Dr. Marshall sold us and the Prime Minister for 46 homes? Is that the reason why the Prime Minister can't say that the one case in Abaco is on Bakers Bay rather than Guana Key? Bakers Bay name was out there all along. All of a sudden, it's just Guana Key. But what the Prime Minister need to do and the competent authority is be truthful to the Bahamian people and the world and let them know that the first case of COVID-19 in Abaco was discovered on Bakers Bay over a week ago. And because of their incompetency, they have allowed this to possibly spread. And I, like everybody else, if you catch COVID-19, you have a lawsuit against Dr. Marshall and Bakers Bay because they and they alone has caused COVID-19 to start the spread in Abaco. The government, under the most honorable Prime Minister to date, haven't said anything about safe contact tracing. I know that there's 5 persons that housed with this Mexican is in quarantine in a trailer by themselves in Bakers Bay. Who else have they been in contact with on Bakers Bay? Have these Mexicans been into the mainstream of Guana Key? Have these Mexicans visited Maxwell's? Have these Mexicans been on the ferry service? All these questions the government ought to have answered to by now. Today, they are quiet because we are being sold for 46 homes. But guess what, Abaco, Bahamas world? Dr. Marshall has sold us to the Prime Minister in this country, this F&M government, for 46 homes. But the homes would not do anybody any good if they're dead. Possibly you will be dead because of the underhands dealing of Dr. Livingston Marshall and the most honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Hubert Minnis. 2 doctors there. And 2 doctors ought to have enough brains to know that they should alert a population of what's to come an epidemic spread of COVID-19 on an island that just recently went through a storm called Hurricane Dorian. And now we can't get a break. There's no water, no electricity. Now, Dr. Livingston Marshall, through the Prime Minister, who was the competent authority that allowed these Mexicans to come in here without any testing. When Kai Mills had to be locked out of Abaco for 2 months right in Nassau, got my test, and they still disallowed me to come to Abaco 1 month later. Give me my test on the day that the Prime Minister said he's going to reopen. So the test didn't really mean anything. They just hold Kai Mills hostage in Nassau for 2 months. But the Mexicans could fly direct on the national flag carrier, all because of greed, monetary greed. That $25 million that Brent Simonet awarded to himself as the government minister of this country is what caused this problem in Bakers Bay today. That $25 million. The greed, unnecessary greed. So tell me, Mr. Prime Minister, new Minister of Health that don't know water from orange, why is everybody absolutely quiet on whether they're doing contact tracing of these Mexicans? I know that Dr. Livingston Marshall is trying his hardest to do some contact tracing. But what about the government? Is Dr. Marshall now working for the government? He has to do the government job? I told you, the breeze in Abaco has been blowing 30, 40 knots for 1 week straight. If this Mexican, not if, we know that he has COVID-19. If he was among the 100 and odd Mexicans and Bahamians, over 200 persons in Bakers Bay, we are looking for an epidemic proportion of COVID-19 in Abaco. And the government clinic don't have one testing kit in Abaco, nor do anybody else. Maybe Dr. Charity got some by now, but the word out of Bakers Bay is that they are so worried that they're gonna fly in doctors from Doctors Hospital to do testing on Bakers Bay. That is a very expensive $2 million task. But $2 million for Doctors Hospital to come to Bakers Bay is not a problem. But what about the FES workers? They, on Bakers Bay, the brilliance of Joe Ball and the rest of them, said FES workers packing because their boss have COVID-19 and in hospital fighting for his life. But did Joe Balls and Dr. Livingston Marshall offer testing to FES workers? And why were they sent home? And the Mexican also has COVID-19 and they remain on island. Shouldn't they get them same jets to get them to hell out of Abaco before it become of epidemic proportion, uncontrollable? No testing, no water, no electricity. How are we gonna wash? How are we gonna see? How are we gonna live in Abaco? Everybody and anybody that be affected by this COVID-19, it lies at the footstool of Dr. Livingston Marshall and the most honorable prime ministers of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that knows that there's COVID-19 on Bakers Bay, and they can't even name the name Bakers Bay. It is mightily quiet. Why? Because just like Judas sold Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, Dr. Livingston Marshall sold Abaco to the government for 46 homes that you may not live to enjoy. When is the government going to come clean about how many persons is truly affected in Bakers Bay, how many people is quarantined, and who is quarantining these people, and have the workers that went there 2 days after they discovered that there was a Mexican there with COVID-19, are these people being tested also? This is one of these Kai Care videos that alone Darren Henfield, the Member of Parliament, should be speaking about. This is what Kai will do as a Member of Parliament for North Abaco. I will alert you about the danger before the danger comes into your house. You're live with Kai, because Kai cares when the government of the Bahamas and your Member of Parliament is visibly quiet because they want to use the 46 homes that Bakers Bay has offered for campaigning. But Bahamian people, Abaco, you're not gonna live to enjoy your homes. They need to have complete testing of everybody that worked on Bakers Bay. Kai cares. You're live with Kai while the government has sold us out for 46 homes. Kai cares.